More and more weapons are being released as Wuthering heads into its next updates, and with each weapon, their niches are getting more and more strict. Those new weapons feature specific timers, conditions, and payoffs that work for the least amount of new characters. It's only through coincidence that these weapons are useful on other characters, and 9 times out of 10, there's a harder payoff to reach. Now that is true for all but one weapon in Wuthering Waves. Since the dawn of patch 1.0, a single weapon has cemented itself as the undeniable best weapon in the game, and throughout heaven and earth, Stringmaster alone is the honored one. My name is Voidenigma, and today I'll be explaining why you, as a free-to-play player, should pull 7 Stringmasters during the next update. The investment will save you years of grabbing every new Rectifier limited weapon, and you'll never have to gear another character for the lifespan of the game. Make sure to subscribe and like this video as always, and let's dive right into the void. That whole intro was a partial satire. Don't pull 7 Stringmasters, please don't. But the point is that there is this one weapon in Wuthering Waves that is universally good on literally every character for that specific weapon type, and that is Stringmaster. Little known fact, attack percent is the most useful stat as far as substats. It outright does more than basic attack percent or any other attack percent like heavy attack and stuff like that, and that's why passives that increase those specific type of damage is super overinflated most of the time because of how valuable attack percent is. Now let's look at Stringmaster's passive. 12% attribute damage, equal or better than attack percent. When dealing resonant skill damage, increase attack by 12%, stacking up to 2 times, lasting for 5 seconds, so essentially 24% attack when the resonant skill does damage, and when the character is not on field, they gain an additional 12% attack for simply being off field. On top of that, you get 36% crit rate. That is massive. Notice how every buff that I mentioned is easily obtainable by every Rectifier character in the game, besides healers of course. From Encore all the way to Cantarella, they can all use the effects of Stringmaster perfectly, and more characters that come in the future will as well. The only real restriction for the 24% attack buff is that you deal resonant skill damage, but keep in mind, it's just dealing resonant skill damage. This is easily proccable by almost every character in their game because there are multiple hits to a resonant skill. This is especially good for sub DPS characters who deal damage off field because they get a free 12% attack. The real insane value of this weapon is a combination of a 36% crit rate alongside the universal buff. It stands to reason that every character in their game has Stringmaster as their second best in slot, right behind their signatures. So while I'm not saying to pull 7 Stringmasters unless you're a real puppet master behind the scenes, but you might want to consider pulling at least 1 copy while you can. This is only the case if you don't have any other characters or weapons that you actually want to pull for, or maybe you're satisfied with your roster, but you don't need to actually pull anything. It's just a suggestion. So universal weapons are great and all, but recently, another contender has entered the scene, and that's actually Zani's weapon. Zani's weapon, Blazing Justice, is not as universal as Stringmaster, but it damn sure comes close. 48% crit damage, 12% attack, 8% defense ignore, while Stringmaster has 36% crit rate, 12% attribute damage, and 24 to 36% attack. The defense ignore is quite valuable for certain characters, especially if their kit gives them a ton of damage amplification. Stringmaster does have 24% more crit value and potentially a much higher attack percent of 12 to 36%, but the trade-off is the 8% defense ignore. Let me just let you know how much more valuable defense ignore is. Without going too much into specifics, 8% defense ignore lets you bypass 8% of the enemy defense. If you were doing about 60% effective damage to the enemy, now you're doing 68%, which is actually about a 13% increase. Meanwhile, if you have 24% attack, your overall damage is just slightly scaling more, so that really amounts to about maybe 7 to 10% more overall damage, so the defense ignore is much more valuable. There was a ton of simplification in the mechanics of Wuthering Waves damage system, but that's just overall kind of how it works. That means that, despite completely ignoring the second passive of Blazing Justice, the weapon inches very close to Stringmaster. Not a universal fit for everyone, but quite a good one. The conditions for this defense ignore is to simply do a basic attack every 6 seconds. Most characters, especially Gauntless characters, easily achieve this, so it's actually a little easier to achieve than Stringmaster's effect to hit the resonant skill. So all in all, we got 2 weapons that are universally good. Please make informed decisions and only attempt to get these if you literally don't plan to get any character in this patch or the next patch. The good news in all this is that the weapon banner is guaranteed, so you'll know you're going to get the weapons. It's just a matter of when. Let me know what you all think about having universally good weapons in Wuthering Waves. I, for one, think that it's an absolute amazing feature, so that if all else fails, you have something to fall back on, right? I understand that every character needing their signature is going to be Kuro's goal, but it's great to have a couple of weapons that everyone can use, especially for Rectifier and Gauntlet characters. Drop a comment down below to let me know your thoughts on the matter. If you enjoyed the video or are satisfied that I'm not in fact arranged to recommend 7 Stringmasters, go ahead and subscribe and like the video. Thanks so much for watching. This has been Void, and Enigma out.